All right, here we go. Hello, hello. Hi. Hmm. Hello. All right. I would like to see my energy flow. Okay. What's going on out there? Hmm. Cool. Jacobs, how are we doing? Hello. Hyman? Jacobs, is that Hyman? Eamon? How are we doing today? How can I help you? I'm doing well. Just hanging out. Floating here in the YouTube world. I come on and offer fast, cheap connections as I sit here in my office. It's a few seconds delay here on the live stream, but I guess that's just YouTube. I guess. I'm doing well. Looking forward to some spring. It's cold. It's cold in my part of the world, so. So have you had a reading before? Yes. Are you happy within your life? Are you happy within yourself? It's a good question. Hmm. 17. Run away. What the heck is this? too indoctrinated. It's true. Be right back.
What's up, Gregory? What's happening? What's up? I'm on live. I ain't got no coat on. I ain't coming out there. I was going to go to England because my mother's good friend that I grew up with. You gotta go to Dominica? Yeah, once again, every time we have money, it's something comes. What happened? I told her. When they died? I think he died yesterday. So the mom and they're going to next week Thursday. Oh. So I'll be all by myself with the kids. Next week Thursday? You know what that means? I'll be coming over to my bed. To the bed. Right or wrong, Brandon? Well, yeah, text me. I don't mind ringing. But I gotta, yeah. Yeah. Well, they're gonna be like, oh, more than one day. No, they're leaving. She's leaving 3 o'clock this morning to go to Citizen Passport. Then they're going right to the airport. So we're not coming back till next week Thursday. Okay. All right. Yeah, we'll get together. We'll get together. Oh. Oh. Well, I gotta go. I got my camera running. All right. Huh? Nah. I wish. Rose is going too? Huh. Have fun. Man, I ain't cooking. I'm taking it easy. I'm working so much.
Yeah. All right, welcome back, Brian. Thank you. Hello, Gray. I'm doing well. What's going on, my friend? Are you at work? Oh, you. Oh, nice. I have to check that out. It sounds fun. Sounds like a blast. I was thinking about you earlier today, actually. Being that we have work in the process, you know. Oh, nice. Yeah, when is that? When's that show? Oh, wow. I remember my I remember my 20s. uh, nice. Hey, Gray, you're somebody that I can have a conversation with about this. I believe in practicing protection before anything, in the journey of anything, and this is something I have spoken to you about. That if you're going to do certain things, substances or whatnot, um, you know, it's very important that you learn how to protect yourself psychically, so you don't have any negative attachments. And we need to still cover a few things on that, Gray. But what about the toad? Yeah, smoking the toad. It's the DMT, but yeah. So Mike Tyson's got a yeah, the toad. You can only get this toad in one place in the world. I think it's on the border of it's yeah, pure. It's pure DMT, and you can only smoke it. You can only ingest this through smoking. It's the secretion from a toad, and the toad is found on the border of the United States and Mexico. A small little region. It's the 5-DMT molecule. I don't know what it is. No, no, no. It's not the only way, but it's the highest and purest form. So they it's different than taking like ayahuasca. It's similar, but it only lasts 20 minutes. I just thought I'd ask you about it for conversation piece. Yeah, you got to be careful though. I know some people um, that have gotten a lot of negative spirit attachments because they go into the because you go into another dimension. You don't need your body to go into another dimension, just your consciousness. And if you're not properly protected, you can receive attachments, unfortunately. So, you know, it's good to have the conversations around these things to make, to bring awareness. I would smoke the toe, to be honest with you. I would, in the proper setting. I think it would be interesting to be. Well, you got to figure this for Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson actually he wasn't really on a spiritual path or anything, and then you hear him. You hear how he does it, and you can see the transformation in his consciousness. Um, exactly. It's an instant. Exactly. It's an instant transporter. Um, so my thing is being somebody that has zero experience, and he probably didn't even have the proper protection. Um, but having somebody that's experienced within the psychic realm with the proper protection, with the energy abilities and stuff, now that's would be interesting to go on that ride. It's like you're already, you're more advanced, more aware, more alert, more in control, probably. Yes. So you're at an animal shop. I was thinking of a kitten or something. Cat. Murray. I tell you, it's interesting to see where we're going to be at in the next 20 years. What is this? The Comic Con, comic nerds. Ah, nice. They say, I've read a few books. One book I can remember about cats. Um, there every cat that crosses your path has a different color, be it calico or black, white, whatnot. But every cat represents something It's either coming, going, leaving your life or manifesting in your life. So, knowing what color cats cross your path, actually, it makes sense. Ah, there you go. Nice. I've always had cats. I haven't had them in a long time, but for the first part of my life, I always had cats. Cats are very uniquely connected to the spiritual realm. You can just feel it. I think the only reason I don't have an animal is because I have it in my, it's the same reason I don't have an animal now is the idea of just up and leaving is always nice to have. It's always appealing to know that you can up and leave in 5 minutes or less if the need ever arised. Listen a little. I'm just, I'm like literally entertaining myself right now. What was it that was heavy that I said? Oh, the cat, the up and leaving in 5 minutes or less. Yeah, well, I do. I do think about that. Traveling. I guess traveling's in my 9 year cycle this come around. So I'm back. I'm back. Are you still there, Gray? I lost the signal. Are you still there? Okay. I have a pull to go across America. I have a pull to go to India. I have a pull to go to a few places. To India. I don't know if I would come back if I went to India though. At this point in my life, I probably would find a Tibetan monastery and take a vow of silence for a period of time and get away from the system. These are the thoughts that I have in my head. So I should probably go cross country to California, Nevada, Arizona before I go to India. Uh, well, I know that they give you an Apple laptop. You get your own Apple laptop. You just have to wake up every like hour to pray and chant. Yeah. Yeah. And then, there's always Egypt to see the pyramids. I feel more of a pull to go to Nepal than I do. Egypt would be cool. I don't know. There's something about Nepal. So, what would you take with you? Gray, where would you travel to, or what would you take with you if you just had to up and leave? Oh boy. Hmm. I always turn to. Okay. It's funny because I've always turned to like my spiritual tools, crystals usually, like would be the first thing. The first things I think about would be like, oh, I gotta get my crystals. And now over the years, I've not only do I have crystals, but now I have like resins and herbs. so, so I just have this like this image of me carrying this one suitcase with just crystals, herbs. Uh, I've even fantasized, like you can do it. When you have a calling to do something, sometimes you just have to go with your calling. And sometimes that does require you to leave everything behind that you own. I've done it before. I've done it. It's how I moved up here from Florida to Pennsylvania. So I know when that calling comes, what it takes. Um, I hope I don't ever have to do a similar calling like that. But I know other people that have done the same thing. Um, so some people might think well, why would somebody think that way? But when you're on a spiritual path, sometimes these are things that actually they happen. Like people that have like really powerful awakenings, everything about them shift. Their place where they live, where they thought they would never go, doing things they thought they would never do, leaving family, friends to go be something else. That happens. It's an interesting. It's interesting. Living on the edge of their reality. Oh, there you go. Well, we're having a conversation for a reason, Gray. Normally, I don't do too much talking on here. You know, there are many levels to a spiritual life and to a spiritual person and a spiritual path, and it's different for everybody. But it goes way beyond just doing energy work and, you know, buying crystals. You know, it's different for everybody. But it does get crazy like that. Like, well, I don't think it's crazy, but, you know, some people would think that. Well, let's put it like this. I had an acquaintance that owned a secondhand thrift shop when I lived in Florida. And it was just like timing. I just met this person. I had my calling. I ended up having this person buy the entire contents of a 2 bedroom townhouse in Florida. I can remember the day that the semi pulled up to the building and they handed me $1,000 cash. And I literally got in my car. It was just whatever I could fit in the car is what went with me, and everything else stayed behind and was loaded up into the semi for $1,000. And people thought I was absolutely batshit crazy. And now that I have established myself, I'm like, it's time to go. But that's just probably the travel bug inside me. Mm. Just had his partner of 20 years leave him. Why? Because they were had a sudden urge to go somewhere. Mm. Yeah, well, again, these are very, there's a very fine line between doing things because they're healthy for you and they're spiritual. And then on the other side of that very fine line, we have things like schizophrenia and bipolar. And they seem to have a similar effect on people. uh, yeah, so do you think that she might have bipolar or something? Because again, we say things in conversations, that spirit thing, that is spirit speaking through us. So I also know people that would do the same thing. They would up and leave everything and all their responsibilities, and their life would literally fall apart. And it would, but those were people that were not on a spiritual path. Those people that they were not on a spiritual path. They were not doing spiritual work. So you'll have to evaluate the situation when we hear these, especially when you hear me talking about these crazy things. But evaluate the situation on, is this person on an awakened spiritual path. You know, because I went through a lot of healing work before I just sold everything and traveled across country with blind faith because I knew I was doing God's work. You know, I was working with people, and I was on a healing path. You know, so that was why I was doing what I was doing. But in the same aspect, I've seen people who also were in my family that would do the same thing at different times in their lives, multiple times in their lives. So it can be an unhealthy and a sign that there's something else that's going on. But on the same flip of that coin, I am always going to encourage people to continue seeing their doctors and just slow down and cut back on the poison that they're prescribing you to dilute your mind and slow you down. But continue to see that doctor. But I also don't believe in bipolar and schizophrenia because I have experience with that, firsthand experience, and I have firsthand experience with the healing aspect of spiritual work, and I have knowledge and experience within the spiritual realm, in the mental body, in the spiritual body, in the physical body. So, you know, I have people that live a spiritual life who are friends of mine, and we don't see eye to eye on this, but from my experience, I will always state the fact that I just don't believe. I believe in the diagnosis of schizophrenia and bipolar and all that stuff, but I believe it's a spiritual, energetic unbalance in attachments. You know, are there people out there that have a mental disorder that's not spiritually connected? I'm sure there are, but for the majority of it, you can usually see negative attachments. So it just depends. Every situation is different. And again, I'm speaking in general terms, having a general conversation, stretching this conversation to appeal to many people that might eventually listen to this who might be going through something. And if you are, you know somebody, then I would encourage you to reach out to me here on the comment section, but preferably on Facebook Messenger because, you know, you don't have to live that way. Well, Gray, you know, anybody, you know, that's going through something like this that we're talking about, I would encourage you to give them my contact information. If it's their time, then I'm sure we would get together. But again, this stuff is not for everybody, unfortunately. Not everybody will awaken to their true self. Not everybody will be healed. Not everybody will be aware of a higher consciousness. Not everybody will be divinely connected to their internal spirit. Not everybody is going to connect with their higher self. Many, 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 many fucking people are going to walk around enslaved and in zombie mode their entire life. Probably about 98% of them. So if you are on a spiritual path and you are doing things and you are aware and you are awakened or you are on that process of continuously opening your consciousness, you're blessed. You're very blessed. I tell you what, I don't know how I can live my day-to-day life not knowing the experiences that I've had energetically or spiritually or however you want to consciously, however you want to label it or identify it. These are the experiences that get me through my daily events. I don't really enjoy being on Earth. Um, childhood trauma. Yeah. Well, I know people. I have clients that I've worked with that have childhood trauma that they have had to work through. And again, a lot of that is connected. So, say somebody is molested or raped by somebody in their childhood, by a family member usually, or you know, I don't want to go stereotypical with the church or whatnot, because a lot of times it's somebody close, it's a family member. Um, but I've seen my clients who I've worked with who suffer from childhood trauma on many levels, and that's what we're talking about is it, suppressed memory, suppressed energy. Um, it de you know it's a fracture in the spirit. It's a fracture in the thoughts in the brain, and that's whenever you start developing things such as bipolar, schizophrenic. Schizophrenia is usually they're just picking up things. It's different. Every case is different and unique, but it is good to be aware. It's sad when you meet. I know people like this. I know somebody from 20 years ago that recently messaged me on Facebook Messenger, and they've done it a few times, and they're crying out for help, but they're not willing to receive it. They're like, it's just sad. It's hard to go into I don't want to go into detail with it, but it's sad when somebody is like reaching out for help and they're crying for help and they're like saying that they're going to commit suicide and whatnot. And this is, again, it all goes back to spiritual maintenance, spiritual attachments, negative heavy energy. And it's sad when you see these people who have lived their lives covered with this darkness, this shadow energy, and they don't know how to remove it or what to do about it. And that's what I was saying is not everybody will be blessed with a healing. Perhaps it's not in their chart in this lifetime. Perhaps this is happening so that they can be pushed forward in a higher conscious, like they perhaps are being very stubborn about their spiritual development and their conscious development. So they're sticking in that little energy field, and that's where they need to be right now. And it might look like it's suffering and it's unhealthy and everything on the outside and the inside, but we have to remember that everything happens with reason. And wherever there's darkness, there's always potential for light. Like there's a reason that's happening. There's a reason why somebody will not receive the healings. You know? And it's not for us to know everything. But usually it's for their own personal development. Maybe they're ready to exit out and they can't help it. You know? Hmm. Well, I think that's it. Great, thanks for stopping by, hanging out, and getting the conversation rolling. Maybe we should do that a little bit more often. Maybe we can do like a discussion board. I'd like to have a discussion board. Gray, what do you think? I don't know. Actually, with if we can get Peter somehow, because Peter, he's different to talk with sometimes. So he's one of those people. He has his own special, beautiful connection. How he plugs into his life, his reality, his spiritual path. But he's been his again traveling. His spiritual path has taken him all around the world. So I would love to have a conversation. And you've been there too. Your path has just started, and you have already been around the world. That's kind of nice when you meet people who are, when you're coming onto the spiritual path and you already have friends who are, decades or a decade ahead of you. You just kind of like fall right in with them sometimes, and it's a blessing. Well, that's something we'd have to probably take a day or an hour a day and figure out to do the plugins or whatnot to bring up all the videos. We could probably just do it real easy through Google Hangout or Google Chat or whatnot. Perhaps we'll have to schedule that. That's something we all have to come together and be like, all right, this is the day, the appointment, and do it. That would be good. I'd be interested in it. Most definitely. Because when you're engaging with people like that, it's better. So we'll be in touch, and I'm gonna be reaching out to you probably within the week or whatnot, just to hear your voice and talk with you. Probably ask you to do something towards your work, because as I said, I wanted to bring your energy into the altar space. So I have been receiving and listening, and that's why I was thinking about you earlier today. So just seeing how we're gonna do your work, and it's all good. Yeah, very exciting stuff. I'm looking forward to it. So blessings to you. Tell Kitty I said goodbye. Until next time, probably tomorrow. Bye-bye.